we are to demonstrate this in the span of 5 years. And the theory of change in this trajectory is this: if there is investment in integrated risk management to address environmental issues such as flooding or drought, which is or will be exacerbated by climate change impacts and extreme events, and will be posing risks to disasters to communities, then the community in the landscape or seascape can achieve resilience. This is the assumption that with investments on integrated risk management, the action plans can be implemented, which will contribute to the improvement of the environment, the improvement of the livelihoods, and the improvement of the security of the community. If a plan is just on the shelf, then it doesn't mean anything to people. So the integrated risk management that we implemented is to develop this trajectory by having landscape assessments at the start, having a management plan that will address the risks, a strategic action plan that is actionable, and this action plan need to be costed, has a means to be implemented. So there is a business planning. And if you have a business plan, then you can advocate for the payment of the ecosystem services that the environment is providing for the communities, security, the environmental security. So this is the stepwise trajectory to the building of resilience. And in this session, we are going to share our experiences with our partners. And we have supported or helped our partners, as well as collaborated with them in many environmental work. We are going to present our experiences in 3 sites. In Coron, this is with our partner, Cord Aid, in Cagayan de Oro River Basin and Agusan River Basin. We also worked in the Eastern Leyte, but we were not able to develop the business plans as of October 30. So we're just going to present for Coron, Cagayan de Oro River Basin, and Agusan River Basin. Today we are having a 3-part session. The first part is Ignite. It's just brief presentations to inspire you or to generate interest, curiosity on the business plans that were prepared. And part 2 is the nature-based solution or the integrated risk management plans that were prepared in the landscape or seascape that was invested on. And then part 3 are posters that will show the methodology or the process where the payment for ecosystem services which we are promoting for the investment planning, and also the restoration of a forest are going to be presented. So I will call on the first speaker. The first speaker is Ms. Aljoy Alaba. She is our field coordinator in Agusan River Basin. Aljoy, please. Is Aljoy?
Hello.
Do you want us to load up your presentation? We apologize to our listeners. There's actually a typhoon passing through the Philippines, and it's affecting our connectivity. So please bear with us.
So good evening, everyone. I am Aljoy Alaba, the field coordinator of the Agusan River Basin Project, Wetlands International. So tonight, this is also it's my privilege to present this short talk to ignite your interest in the business planning for the climate change responsive Agusan River Basin Master Plan. More about the presentation.
You are on the second slide now, Aljoy.
Yeah. So Agusan River Basin is an important river in Mindanao in the Philippines and in the world. This is the
She still connected, or she's disconnected now? Um,
Still connected.
She's on mute.
okay na. So do you hear me, everyone?
we can hear you.
Okay. So Agusan River Basin is an important river in the Mindanao, in the Philippines, and in the world. It is the third largest river in one of the 18 majors in the Philippines. This river has a drainage area about 12,000 square kilometer, and it is one of the stopovers of the migratory birds of the in the East Asian Australasian Flyway, which is the Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary, the Ramsar site located in the middle of the river. Wetlands International, together with our partners, have employed two nature-based solutions to address the risk of hazards, erosion, and flooding through forest landscape restoration in Barangay Kuliram, Talacogon, Agusan del Sur, and riverbank buffer restoration in Moncayo, Davao de Oro. These restoration methods will be described later by Dr. Agustin Mercado Jr. The two nature-based solutions have cost and benefits. This is not a complete analysis. This is only a rough presentation of cost and qualitative benefits, and the main costs of the restoration are the seedlings of the fruit trees and the wildlings of the native trees in its care, such as ringweeding and application of fertilizers. The costs of the restoration roughly are about 1.7 million pesos or 23 euros or 28,000 US dollars.
Can you roll the slides, please?
Okay, so thank you, Sheen. So the total cost is about 1.7 million with 21 or about 29,000 euros or 34,000 US dollars. The qualitative benefits are listed here, including the ecosystem services and the safety of the community. Some of the benefits will be shown in the following slides, such as riverbank is restored. It can be shown in the next slide. Next slide, 3, please. Okay. The riverbank restoration riverbank were secured in Moncayo, Davao de Oro. In this presentation or in these slides, we can see that there the comparison of between the 2017 and the year of 2019. And the economic zone is productive, as we can see in the next slide. In this slide, we can see the comparison of the bank in 2017 and in 2019. In the photo of 2019, we can see the plantains and the maize along the native trees in the area. The slope is secured in Barangay Kuliram in Agusan del Sur. In this slide, we can see the presence of trees holding the ground in the 2019 photos. Endemic trees have returned, like Pumisha piñata has returned in this photo. The soil condition and revegetation of the forest has improved, as seen in this photo also. And supplemental livelihood for the indigenous people was developed from the intercropping of cacao and fruit trees. And this, we'd like also to acknowledge our partners. And that will be all for my presentation.
Thank you, Aljoy. Aljoy is fading out. We want to thank our local partners in Moncayo and Talagocan, especially the local farmers and indigenous people of Kuliram who help us in the replanting of the forest in the slope as well as in the riverbank. And of course, the Partners for Resilience Project funded this project. Thank you very much. I would now like to invite our next speaker. Our next speaker will give us the result of the business planning, the business plan for Cagayan de Oro River Basin.
Hi, I am Michelle Ares, the Admin Officer of the Cagayan de Oro River Basin Management Council. And now I will be presenting the Cagayan de Oro River Basin Business Planning Canvas. Next slide, please. So let me show you first the landscape photo of the Cagayan de Oro River Basin and its map. So in this landscape, we can get benefit from many benefits because of what we call as the ecosystem services, and there are various ecosystem services such as provisioning services, in which we can obtain food and water. There are also what we call our regulating services, which includes the food and disease control, flood and disease control. And lastly, we also have the supporting services in which there is the nutrient cycling, which maintains the condition for life and biodiversity. And now we are facing serious issues for this, which is deforestation. So in order to address these major issues, we in the council have many activities in which to minimize the effect of this deforestation. So in order to implement each activities in the master plan, we need to see first its financial aspects. Next slide, please. So this is the business model canvas of the Cagayan de Oro River Basin Management Council. So what is a business model canvas? This is a simple presentation of information without complications, which focuses on three major elements, namely the market, the operations, and the financial system. So under the market, in here we can see the targeted clients, our relationship with them, and also how do we bring our services to them, the channel, what we call the customer channel. So in our case in the council, our customer relationship encompasses of the academic sectors, which is example for the academic sectors that are our customers is the University of Science and Technology, Central Mindanao University, and we also have partners from the NGOs, namely Streams Coalition and KIN. We also have the LGUs from the LGU Libona, Talakag, and Baongon. We also have the concerned NGAs, the DENR, MINDA, and DILG. For the customer channels, this is our method or ways on how do we bring our services. So for the council, we have tri-media, like printing, broadcasting, or social media, community consultation, capability building, and community outreach, and science papers such as journals, research, and feasibility studies. So the value proposition, this is the identity of each organization. So when we conducted the business planning workshop last August, the majority voted for this phrase: one river basin, one landscape, and one environment. So this value proposition is important because it encourages other sectors in the government for partnership. And under the operations, these are the key activities, the key resources, and the key partners. So under the key activities is the technical working groups in the council, the rehabilitation, local governance, community development, resource management, payment for ecosystem services, media and communications. We also have the activities under the Integrated Watershed Resources Master Plan, which one of their activities is to change the mindset and behavior concerning the ecosystem. So for the key partners, currently the council has 54 member organizations from the various sectors. And we also have partners from the national and international partners, namely the IUCN in Netherlands, the Vitens Ivides, the Wetlands International, and the Hinelaban Foundation. So for the key resources under operations, these are the it composes of physical, intellectual, and human resources. For example of the physical is the PMO office, including its office equipments. In the intellectual aspect, we have financial grants, financial counterparts from the LGUs and NGAs, and also the past funds. So the last element is the financial system. In our case in the council, we identified various investors, such as what I mentioned earlier, the LGUs from Baongon, Libona, Talakag, and also in CDO. And we also have partners with international institutions like IUCN, Wetlands International, and VEI, and we also partner with the business sector such as COWD and other banks. So what we are doing in the council is we channel these funds to have an outcome that can contribute for the rehabilitation and preservation of the ecosystems. So as what we see in the cost structure graph, The source of funds from different investors in the council will be received in 2021 to 2022 and will decline in the succeeding years. So now it is a challenge for the council to generate more income from the other investments or partners. Next slide, please. So I will be here are our partners in the Cagayan de Oro River Basin Management Council, the Wetlands International, the VEI, the Hinelaban Foundation, the IUCN, the academic sectors, the government sectors, and the private sectors. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Now I would like to invite Ms. Kate Ho of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources to present the business plan for the Agusan River Basin.
Hello, everyone. I am Forester Environmental Planner Mary Kathleen Po of the DNR Caraga region, and I am the Secretariat of the Agusan River Basin Regional Technical Working Group. It's my honor to be invited as one of the presenters in this activity. So I will be presenting our business canvas for climate change responsive integrated Agusan River Basin Master Plan. Next slide, please. So I am showing you a snapshot of the profile of our Agusan River Basin. So the Agusan River Basin, as mentioned a while ago, is the third largest river basin in the Philippines, and it has a drainage area of 11,900 plus square kilometers, or equivalent to 1.19 million hectares. It covers 3 regions and 8 provinces, several municipalities and cities, as you can see on the screen. So this river basin is actually quite large and is very challenging to manage. So as you can see there, we have there listed the different ecosystem services. That is why the Agusan River Basin is very much important, no, not only in controlling flood in the lower reaches of the basin, but most of all because it is a hot seat of biodiversity, since we have the Agusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary, which is a declared Ramsar site and the Asian Heritage Park. Okay, so the Agusan River Basin has many issues. So same as other river basins, we have many challenges, but we have narrowed it or sanitized it into 4 major challenges. So as you can see, we have here deteriorating watersheds. We also have our deteriorating water quality and quantity, for our water resources. We have also challenges in managing our wetlands, and also we are also besieged by various climatic and geological hazards, that are exacerbating the negative impacts of these issues. So one of the important issues that also seen or recognized by the members or the stakeholders is the absence of a harmonized, well-coordinated institutional body, to harmonize or to ensure the sustainable development and management of our river basin. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I am showing you a longitudinal profile of the ARB. As you can see, the watersheds, the effect of the watersheds in the upper reaches down to the Butuan Bay. So as you can see, based on the existing land use and what is the likely effects, of these existing land uses to the various resources, to the different dimensions of the ecosystems in the ARB. So we have here, as you can see, it shows the relationship of the framework that we followed in the preparation of the plan, which is the Integrated River Basin Master Plan. So at its heart is the ridge to reef approach. So it puts into an intimate lens, no, on the various aspects on the different ecosystem and the management of the various ecosystems of within the ARB. So we have here, you can see here visually the scope of the different themes under the IRB management framework, no, where the watershed, water resource management or watershed, wetlands, flood, climate change, and hazard management, and institutional covers. No, so basically you can see how the whole, the whole context of the resource is being managed through the different thematic areas, no, which is being used in the master plan. Okay, next slide, please. So this is basically a summary, no, of the framework of the plan. As you can see, we have here 5 major objectives. No? This is actually the 5 objectives of the plan, which each objective represents each thematic area. So I think it is clear now on the screen. So it is envisioned that through these objectives, we will contribute to the achievement of also to the achievement of the goals of the 3 regional development plans of the 3 regions, and ultimately also contribute to the achievement of the various goals in our Philippine development plan, since we align with the development goals. So we anchored that so that all the planned interventions in the river basin will also contribute to the macro aspect, since we know that we have to be holistic, no, and we have to be keep in or we have to be aligned with the existing practice, no, or existing intervention or approach, no, nowadays, so that we can also contribute, not only contribute, but most importantly participate, in the achievement of our vision, towards improving the socioeconomic conditions of our stakeholders. Okay, next slide, please. So our master plan has a 15-year investment plan. So it has a total investment portfolio of 95 billion. So as you can see, we have here presented the requirements for the first 5 years, then the 6th to 10th year, and the 11th to 15th year. We have here also a summary of how much each thematic area constitute in the master plan. So we really put emphasis, on the watershed management development aspect, since it is the thematic area where all the ecosystem services, this is the thematic area where all the ecosystem services, continuous provision is safeguarded. So next is the water resource, then flood control, and also we have here specific interventions for the wetlands, since Luzon Marsh is very much important. So we have here, unlike the Cagayan de Oro River Basin, which have a prepared business canvas for the whole basin, ours actually is, since it is anchored on the master plan, the technical working group prepared a separate business canvas for each thematic area. So as you can see in the screen, as my predecessor earlier discussed the importance of the business canvas. So we have here identified, who are our clientels, where our proposed interventions, who will benefit, who will be our participants, who will be the key players, what is our really invention, how do we envision, the result, of the implementation because of the master plan. So we have also identified here our key partners, our key activities, so and also in acknowledgement of our existing resources. So we have here in the lower side, we presented here the cost structure and our revenue streams, and where we envision to get this money. So actually, these are all projections. So hopefully we are optimistic that come 2022, our plan will start. Will start. Will commence its implementation. Okay, next slide, please.
Can you please wrap up in 1 minute, Kate?
Okay, so I will just, Ma'am Anadel, we have here, I will not discuss thoroughly, each of the business plan, but we have here just to show you the business canvas for each of the thematics. So earlier we have there the water resources. Here next is the watershed management development. So next slide, please. We have here also our business canvas for the wetland management. Okay, next please. Then we have here for the flood, climate change, and hazard management. Then for the institutional development. So next. So based on our inflow, so this is actually a picture of our revenue streams, where we plan or where we target to get the money, in order to jumpstart the implementation of the plan. So we have here the various sources, possible sources of our budget. Next is the cash flow. So here is a complete detail of how the programs and projects will be undertaken, how the expenses, projected cash will be used, in the implementation of the plan. So overall, this is the total fund requirement. So we expect that for the first 5 years, we would need something like 6 billion, in order really to jumpstart the operation, the first phase implementation of our master plan. So that's all, and good evening.
Thank you so much, Kate. That was very comprehensive. Indeed, you have made a lot of work for the business, for the climate change responsive Agusan River Basin Management Plan. Now, I would like to call Mr. Arne Jensen, who was also in the Agusan River Basin project before the PFR2 project, to give additional information on the cost of the seedlings that were used in the planting. Arne.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Because the typhoon is hitting very hard right now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. No, I just wanted to number one, acknowledge these great presentations. And I'm so happy, despite of the typhoon, that we all are still connected. Going back to this effort to show the linkage between investments that will benefit the communities as well as environment. And it was mentioned that we indeed did a collaboration in Talagogon in the community called in the community upstream of Agusan Marsh, which was all based on a very good collaboration with the local government unit and indeed with the community. You may all know that this is maybe not the most safe area in the Philippines, but because of the drive by the communities, when they understood that they could both reforest this former beautiful forest area and they could also have fruit-bearing trees that overall would provide a much better livelihood. I remember we called it from the cacao bean to the chocolate bar. So a lot of these investments, not least in the fruit-bearing trees, this concept was then replicated to reforest the riverbanks in areas in Moncayo, which is also in the Agusan River Basin. But my main message is in recognizing both the local players and our partners, which at that time was particularly the Philippine Red Cross and to some extent also Care Philippines, that these funds actually came out of the Netherlands post lottery grant, which was managed by the Philippine Red Cross. Not maybe that it makes a big difference, but I think it is always good to recognize who paid for what. So it is not the seeds and the fees and everything associated with the planting in Moncayo and in the upper slopes in Talagogon is paid for by the Dutch post lottery and is not coming out of the PFR, out of the Netherlands government's funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, now may I invite Dr. June Mercado to make the presentation on the two nature-based solutions.
Hello, am I loud and clear?
Loud and clear, thank you.
It's nice to be a part of this meeting. My name is Agustin Mercado Jr. I'm presenting in behalf of our colleagues, Dr. Kabanban, Dr. Kiawit, and Aljoy. The title of my presentation is Nature-Based Solution for Riparian Buffered or Riverbank Forest Restoration and Forest Landscape Restoration in Agusan River. Joy has described the Agusan River Basin. It is the largest river basin of the Philippines, the third largest. It is located in northeastern part of Mindanao. It has a drainage area of 10,000 square kilometers, and it has a large marsh area covering 14,000 hectares, and it is included as Ramsar list of wetlands of international importance. And there are many species of birds, flowering plants, ferns, and crocodile. And more importantly, this is the flyway for important birds like herons, storks, and seagulls during the month of November and January. But we have upstream and downstream problems at Agusan River Basin. Physically, you can see a lot of siltation, sedimentation, soil erosion, landslide. At the downstream part, you can see flooding, stream bank erosion, and also because of small-scale mining, you can see contamination of heavy metals. And socially, you can see food insecurity of the household around Agusan River Basin, and some of the people are displaced during flood season, and you can observe poverty. Most of the people are poor and having poor literacy. And ecologically, it has poor vegetative cover, low carbon sequestration, and poor river flows during hello.
Yes, we
Hello?
can hear you.
And so we have these two nature-based solutions that we are working on. The first one is forest landscape restoration. So we employ the native species. We have around 20 different species which are adapted to the condition, and plant them together with the cacao and fruit trees like lanzones and durian. And during the early stage, before the canopy closures, farmers are planting annual crops like maize, vegetable, and other crops. And for our riparian buffer forest, another nature-based solution where we planted also native species along the riparian zone. So these are the objective of works in forest landscape and riparian buffer for restoration. For our forest landscape restoration, we want to have a novel, innovative approach to subsoil erosion, landslide, and slope stabilization. And of course, return of important endemic species uh, have been lagged, and then also providing livelihood and food security to the household, and as well as
Sorry to
improving.
interrupt. Sorry to interrupt. Can you put it on presentation mode? Presentation mode, your PowerPoint. Thank you.
Okay. And then for our riparian buffer forest restoration, definitely we are going to reduce sediment, organic material, and nutrient loss, and stabilize eroding stream banks, and as well as creating wildlife habitat, as well as providing like wildlife corridors, because we are working along the riverbank riparian zones that connecting to a number of forests, and also create a suitable environment for the aquatic resources, and also improving the carbon storage of the area. So this is the schematic arrangement of the riparian buffer forest restoration, or the riverbank restoration. So we divided the area into two. We have the ecological zone, where this is mainly dominated by native species. We arrange it appropriately, combining the trees with good soil binding, as well as good soil anchorage. And then in the next zone, this is the planting of cash perennials that will provide income and livelihood to the farmers, and as well as planting grasses to provide better erosion control. And this is the performance of the different native species planted in our forest landscape restoration, the one in Talacugon and the one in Moncayo, Davao de Oro. We planted them as under the riparian buffer forest restoration. So to conclude this presentation, we found out that the riparian buffer forest restoration and forest landscape restoration are nature-based solution to the Agusan River problems, because we are using native species which are adapted to the local growing environment. We use a framework species technique, where we are deliberately using the three types of species. We have the fertilizer tree, pico species, economic species, which enhance biodiversity, land use stability, household food and nutritional security, and income, as well as climate change mitigation and adaptation. So using multiple species, ensuring good mixture of trees with excellent good soil binding and soil anchorage properties, with proper planting design. This enhances water infiltration, soil erosion control, landslide protection on sloping land, as well as preventing riverbank erosion, liquefaction, siltation in the river system, as well as to the coastal areas. This also restore forest landscape and riparian buffer forests, providing better biodiversity, wildlife sanctuary, while ensuring sustainability of Agusan River Basin. So these are the reasons why we have this good nature-based solution in Agusan River Basin problem. The last but not the least, I would like to encourage our partner. I would like to thank the local government units of Talakugon, the farmers, and the IPs there who work with us, as well as the local government of Moncayo, the Accord, CARE, and the Department of Environmental Resources, Red Cross Netherlands, the Philippine Climate Change Center, as well as the postcode lottery of Netherlands. That's postcode lottery. With that, thank you very much, Ma'am Anadel, and thank you very much everyone for listening this short presentation.
Thank you so much. We still have several presentations, and I hope that you can stay and listen to them. We have a presentation coming up from the Cagayan de Oro River Basin, Dr. Hailey Roa Kiawit.
Hi, good evening. Before I'll start, Chin, I'll share it. Can
Okay.
I?
Okay, Doc. Sure.
Yeah. No. Can you stop the sharing? I will. Yeah. Oh no. I cannot share. No.
You can dapat na because you're co-host.
Oh, pero I cannot share lagi. Kailangan.
Try again, ma'am.
Oh, here it's coming out again. Okay. Yeah. Good evening, everyone, or good day for those who are not from the Philippines. I'm Hailey Kiawit. I'm working on an ecosystem approach to environmental governance, and I have been working with 3 multi-sectoral management bodies here in Southern Philippines for an integrated landscape seascape approach to environmental management. So let me fly you off to where we are. We are, as mentioned, in the Southern Philippines, in the island of Mindanao, and we're working with a corridor of river basins, no? The CDO River Basin, the Cagayan de Oro, Taguluan River Basin, and the Agusan River Basin. Why are we doing this? Because in those areas, we have the perfect recipe for disaster. Like for the CDO River Basin, we have a very precarious geomorphology that is very much denuded. And we have the heavy rains that are coming in, exacerbated by climate change. So we have experiences of flooding and disasters over the years. Also, in Agusan Marsh, where it was mentioned earlier by the 2 speakers, is that its role as a water storage is not being functioning because of the mining and erosions that are going on around its vicinity, such that there is an overload of sediments and it becomes instead a storage sink, so it causes flooding and disaster as well in the downstream area. Apart from this, we're also experiencing water insecurity, and I guess this is not just in one city, but these are the areas identified as early as 2007. And Cagayan de Oro, where we're working, which is the downstream and the hub for Northern Mindanao, is already experiencing this water stress. So what are we doing? We are focusing on protecting our ecosystem services. And to drive this point across, we were
telling our communities here that the water bill that they are paying is actually used for the pipes, the operations of the water service facility in their area. But what is not known and is not seen is that the source of this water is actually coming from the ground and not the company. And the recharge is very much important and done by the environment, which we should protect. So we get this continuous supply. So we have this concept called ecosystem services that we are pushing. And it's a very simple concept that people are accepting, and we assure them that to have a flow of these ecosystem services, we need to restore the environment to retain its integrity. So we use a very simple premise where you have more cover, more trees, then you have more water that will go into the ground, less surface runoff causing flooding. So apart from that is that these ecosystem services is under an overarching umbrella, which is the river basin management plans that all these 3 river basins that we're working on are existing. But as mentioned earlier by Kate, we need funds to implement this ecosystem service work, at the same time these different activities of the management plan. So in our case, the role of a multi-sectoral body like this management councils is very much critical as a harmonizing body that will facilitate all these different tracks for the financing. So let me just focus on payments for environmental services. In our case, one source is the local government unit. We lobbied with the 4 LGUs in the river basin, and we were able to come up with these PES ordinances where they were able to allocate money. In this case, for the one of the headwaters, a water tariff is added for the water bill to ensure the restoration of the Mount Kalatungan. The adjacent LGU, Libuna, similarly has the same setup for the adjacent headwater, Mount Kitanglad. What's unique in these ordinances is the one in the downstream chartered city of Cagayan de Oro, because they have allocated 10 million a year for the restoration of the watersheds, not just within the city, but also within the river basin. But apart from the local government units, we've been also tapping the business sector. And this is a unique one. It's a river basin-wide PES, where the sellers are the IP communities in the Kalatungan headwater, and the buyers are the downstream communities in Cagayan de Oro, including businesses and big corporations like Del Monte and Shell. But here, there's a unique third-party fund manager to facilitate the sellers and the buyers. Apart from that, there's also this long-standing PES by the Unifruti Group, and they will present also later, in that they have a very good partnership with the IP groups that where the pineapple and banana plantations are. They also have this annual support for their ensure the integrity of the ecosystem, but also the needs of the tribal community. Last year, we were successful to getting the Cagayan de Oro Water District to allocate 4 to 6 million a year, since their business is water, so to ensure that there is continuous recharge of the watersheds where they are pumping. We still have a long way to go. The ones in red in the map are the priority areas we need to restore. The greens are the existing ones, and you see that we need to work on several sectors to get more funds, either in the form of PES, or it can be a grant or partnership. So thank you. This is a project that has been going on for like a decade now, and we've been working with IUCN Netherlands, and now with Wetlands International Philippine Program, and with the Samdana Institute and the Hineliban Foundation, the Unifruti and the BEI. Thank you. Back to you, Annadel.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hailey. Very good presentation. I'm afraid we don't have time for questions. Let's proceed to the next presentation from the seascape this time, from Stan of Cordaid, who will present the management plan in Coron, Palawan. Stan, would you like to upload it from you?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes, please put on presentation mode. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Stan Salcedo of Court Aid, and with me is Connie Isabel of the Calamianes Resilience Network, our local partner on the ground pursuing resilience in the Calamianes. So I'll be presenting the integrated watershed management and payment for ecosystem services in Barangays Tara, Binavista, and Malawi ancestral domain in Coron, Palawan, Philippines. Actually, Court Aid is a member of the Partners for Resilience and has been engaged in community actions, resilience building since Typhoon Haiyan or Super Typhoon Yolanda. Why the project in Coron? So these are the contexts and issues. First, it is an island fishing communities of Tagbanwa indigenous peoples, but there are also some who are engaged into upland farming. So in that map there, you can see the ancestral domain of the Tagbanwa tribe. Their domain includes the ancestral waters. And poverty incidency and malnutrition children is really high. They are experiencing climate-induced hazards like typhoon, long dry season, like drought, and sea level rise. They are also experiencing human-induced hazards like farming, timber poaching, mangrove cutting, contributing to decreased forest and mangrove cover, soil erosion, high water runoff, fish habitat degradation. And actually, this is a major issue in the Calamianes, the scarcity of water. And also, in 2013, they were severely hit by the Typhoon Haiyan, impacting residential structures, livelihood, and water sources. This is where Court Aid comes in, in rehabilitation and resilience building. So the solution to those concerns is the integrated watershed management. But first, we conducted the participatory resource risk and socioeconomic assessment to determine baselines, to determine priority issues, and determine priority interventions. And it is ensured that in the processes, community participation is there from data gathering, analysis, and planning. And the community also established and delineated their watershed zones. In the map shown, they have established a 300-meter radius strict protection zones to protect their main water source. So there are four strict protection zones in the 3 barangays. So another intervention is community organizing, capacity building, and planning. So we facilitated organizing of the watershed management committee at the village level, forest guards, the Bantay Gubat, and also livelihood groups, and including the health groups, the community health groups. And they are involved in watershed management planning, such as shown in that picture below. They are actually the tribal leaders are praying for their management plan that it will be successful. And of course, interventions on watershed rehabilitation and protection in the forest and also in the coastal. So we have mangrove rehabilitation and upland forest rehabilitation. The Bantay Gubat or the forest guards are also conducting regular monitoring to secure their watersheds. So here we also implement and apply the climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction measures. For instance, the water recharge, retention, and reuse strategy, such as this valley trap application, where communities just, actually this is a low cost, low input technology where community put stones in rivers and creeks, streams to slow down the flow of water direct to the sea, for the water also to have time to sink in to the water table, to underground. And also the rainwater harvesting. So in times of drought, they have stored water. And this one is, we also facilitated the establishment of eco-friendly livelihood. These are who are producing the pandan handicrafts, and they're selling it into malls, in souvenir shops in Coron, and participating in trade fairs. And also we strengthen the organic vegetable farming, for food security of the community, and for this is including health also, and for selling. And this is very important for us, collaboration and resilience building, resilience advocacy. So we partner the communities with other stakeholders on the ground, the government, the civil society organizations, to and also for advocating their strategies to other municipalities in the region. And that's also where the Calamianes Resilience Network actually is very important, because they are the ones who are spreading, advocating these strategies on integrated watershed management to the whole of Calamianes. So we have also the payment for ecosystem services. It's actually the strategy of the community to fund their solution towards sustainability. So they have their watershed management plan for the next 5 years. They crafted their payment for ecosystem services policy to support their plan. It's a strategy to internally finance the watershed management plan aside from external support. So the earning groups are sharing 5% of their income to the watershed management committee for the watershed management plan. So like the women handicraft, the organic vegetables, the water service providers are already contributing. And now a collection of fees from visitors and tourists, even local government units, is currently being finalized by the communities at the village level. That's their picture of their areas, the plan, and also the leaders are inking the management plan. So that's all. We are very thankful to the indigenous peoples community of TBM, the Tara Buena Vista, Malawi, Coron, Palawan. Without their consent, active participation and support, and even ownership of the project, so this will not be pursued at the beginning, and this will not be successful and will be sustained in the future. And also the Calamianes Resilience Network is bringing these strategies to other areas in the Calamianes region. And also our partners from the local government units of Coron, and then government agencies operating Coron for their support. And we also thank Partners for Resilience, for the Forest Foundation Philippines, Wetlands, for their funding support. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's very nice to see the work of Court Aid and its partners with indigenous people in establishing a management plan and a payment for ecosystem services. And now I would like to open the session for posters. I would now like to invite first our partner, Hineleban Foundation, to present their poster on rainforestation. Ms. Georgia Perrine.
Hi, good afternoon or good evening from Bukidnon, Mindanao. Miss Annadelle, should I share my screen?
Yes, you can, if you can. Yeah.
Okay. Are you able to see?
Yes, great. Can you just, yeah, great.
Okay. You only see the poster, right?
We see you also.
Okay. Okay, sorry. Before I start, I just want to say to the previous presentations, they were really great. Thank you so much for that, everyone. Okay, so I come from a family of farmers who have been working in agriculture here in Mindanao over the last 45 years. In the last 3 decades, to add to what's been previously said, I think it's a theme here that we know. We've noticed increasing weather irregularities with too severe El Nino droughts over the last 5 years, and frequent dry periods in between interspersed with torrential downpours. The result of all this is the loss of about 40% productivity of the land for food production. And for example, where farmers here used to harvest 3 cycles of corn, today only one harvest is likely and the second is lucky. As deforestation continues, along with the degradation of the watersheds, we've also seen severe erosion in the uplands and massive flooding and the subsequent loss of life in the lowlands. These observations led us to engage in reforestation to contribute to climate change mitigation, to secure water and food for Mindanao, to reduce the impact of natural disasters, and ultimately to bolster the resilience of our communities here. As you can see in the poster, our reforestation methodology comprises 2 key phases. First, we plant the Calyandra shrubs. Through the shade that they cast, the Calyandra address the obstacle of Kogan grass overgrowth, which compete for nutrients and invite fires during the dry season, risking the burning away of all tree planting investments. Through their nitrogen-rich leaves and nitrogen-fixing roots, the Calyandra replenish the often nutrition-depleted soil. After 2 years, we begin to grow trees. And by grow, I mean we plant them, we regularly check on the seedling health, and we maintain the spaces around the seedlings to ensure an optimum environment for them to thrive. A few years later, when the trees grow tall and develop a canopy, the Calyandra shrubs subside and the conditions for biodiversity improve. At the 2015 International Competition on Climate Change in Paris, we received the grand prize for best project in the forestry sector for the reforestation methodology we developed as explained here. But I must emphasize that although it's absolutely a core component of our approach, we would not be able to implement our activities without closely working with the communities who live near or beside the forests, and of course, with the imperative support of various government, non-government, and international agencies. If we work with the people who live near the forests, and if we help them to become more food secure through community food gardens, and to gain greater access to disposable income through climate resilient, high value agriculture products, they can play a more active role in protecting the forest. Through these efforts, we want to make sure that we are respecting these communities as partners. So we also create the space to listen to their feedback on the design of our engagement, starting with a participatory cultural impact assessment, as you can see here, and then throughout the project implementation with regular weekly communication by our field team. So this is the sum of our approach. But as many of us here know, our efforts at Hinaluan Foundation only represent a few pieces of the complex puzzle in building resilience amongst our communities. And this is where, with the support of the Netherlands Enterprise Agency and Unifruti Tropical Philippines in the Ridge to Coast Rain to Tap project, we've had the wonderful privilege to participate in a greater and more integrated multi-sectoral approach to building resilience in partnership with, among others, the Philippines Red Cross, RVO, VEI, Wetlands International, and the CDO RMBC. So for this project, we are operating on the mountain sides of Mount Kitanglan Range, as also indicated in Dr. Hailey's presentation earlier, from where some of the headwaters of Cagayan de Oro's river basin flow in partnership with the indigenous Talaandig communities who reside there. In line with our approach, our goals for the project are the following. To train 50 farmer families in agroforestry for food security, to train the same families in the production of high-value crops such as coffee and adlai, and finally, and not least, to reforest 165 hectares of riparian areas and buffer zone areas ahead of the existing forest. It is our hope that if we work closely alongside these communities and with our partners in the project, we can help build resilience for both upland and lowland communities by improving water and food security and by mitigating flooding risks and other adverse impacts on agriculture caused by the state of deforestation and degradation in Mount Kitanglad. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Georgia. That was a very nice presentation on your poster. It's very clear. I hope we can have some time after these two posters for some questions. Let me now invite Yashi first, and then we'll have Stan again. Yashi to present us a poster on the payment for ecosystem services models in Cagayan de Oro River Basin.
Thank you. I will be sharing my screen po. So good evening, everyone. I am Yoshimera Maape. I am the Junior Technical Officer for the CDO River Basin Management Council. And we are working together with Wetlands International and under the Reach to Coast Rain to Tap project with VEI, the Hindiluban Foundation, and other partners from other work packages. And so one of the components of the project is to help support the different stakeholders in the river basin to come up with their own payments for ecosystem services. So just to put PS into context, it's a way to incentivize land users to properly manage and conserve their natural environment, thus ensuring the flow of ecosystem services. And so this usually includes a group of people who provides the services, such as they are called the sellers, and those who pay, they are called the buyers. And so this PAS presents a new incentive for sustainable resource management. This can be done through both monetary and non-monetary transactions. And so through these payments, it enables the community to earn, build long-term sustainable use and protection of the resources around their area. And so under the CDO River Basin Management Council, we have been advocating into sustaining this green growth through policy support with the CDO River Basin stakeholders. And this includes both of the civil society organizations, the local government units, and the business sectors who have collaborated to create and implement their own model of PAS in the entire river basin. And so I think Dr. Hailey already presented the different modes of the PAS in the river basin, the CDO River Basin. So we both have the LGU-led, which are initiated by the local government units, meaning these are passed through ordinances and agreements with the local governments and their stakeholders. And we also have the civil society organization led, which are basically the civil society organization operating within the river basin, helping other organizations also. And then the business led, one of the examples of the business led organization is from the Hindiluban Foundation. They have the Sacred Customary Compact, and then we also have the PS from the Cagayan de Oro Water District and Dole, the pineapple and papaya producer here in CDORB. They're one of the largest plantations operating here in our landscape seascape. And so what are the approaches that we have been using in order to come up and support the policies of these different stakeholders? First, we identify the ecosystem services. What is the dominant ecosystem services in that certain area, and how or what what is the impact of these ecosystem services to the community. And we also measure the benefit of ecosystem services. How much would this affect the community? This involves valuation of the natural resources. We have conducted analysis here in CDORB. Next is to establish the baseline scenarios, both historical and future. So one of the examples of it is when you say historical, we've been hit by Sendong, which, clearly devastated a lot of our properties, killed thousands of people here in Cagayan de Oro City. And that actually stems out from the massive deforestation activities in the upland. And so if you establish that historical data, what do you want to see in the future? Well, in the council, we have envisioned sustainably managed CDO river basin. And so by doing that, we wanted to create these different steps, including the reforestation of the degraded areas. Also, we have been identified as a water insecure city by the National Water Resource Board as early as 1970s. And then now, still part of the 10 water stress cities. So we have been advocating for the reforestation in the areas, not only to prevent the flooding, but also to improve the water table of the river basin. Valuation and motivation of potential buyers. So you need to identify what will be the buy-in of the different buyers in a given community. For us, it will be, especially for the business sector, let's see, for example, the Cagayan de Oro Water District, because of the massive flooding during Sendong, their operations were shut down for like a week after the typhoon. And so that actually has a great impact, big impact in terms of their profit and in terms of the service that they're giving out. And then lobbying for support. This element is very critical because it actually depends on what stakeholders you're targeting. For example, if you target the local government units, you need to identify an in-house champion among the councillors because they will be the one who's going to lobby it to the city council, the municipal council, and it will be a great help if you have these people on board because they have the capacity to legislate and have the capacity to influence their co-politicians. And then also in the lobbying area, we've created this coalition. It's called Streams Coalition. It's a coalition of different CSOs and NGOs in the Bukidnon, Cagayan de Oro area. And so they are very critical because they represent people, they represent communities in the river basin. And so when they show up their support, when they give the resolutions to the councillors, it is of big help because then these politicians, these business sectors would actually realize that, we are not just, CDORB is not alone in this crusade, but there are also people knowing the struggle of maintaining the ecosystem services in the river basin. And we have also different payment types. This can be the indirect or direct payments. It actually depends. This actually also connects to the contract types of these agreements. For the contract types example, we have PS through ordinances. We have PS through customary law. Example, the Sacred Customary Compact, which the agreement is enshrined on the customary laws of the indigenous people. So that's an example for it. And then last but not the least is the business planning and initiating activities. I would say business planning is also a crucial part because this is where you will identify the sources of your funds, what activities will you be funding for the next 4 years, and who will be your partners in establishing those activities. And so PS presents a great impact in our restoration. It ensures the flow of ecosystem services in the given community, provides sustainable income and food securities to community, It also recognizes and utilizes the indigenous knowledge and practices on sustainable land management. It strengthens the cooperation and working relationship of people in resource-based negotiation, and it brings the accountability of key stakeholders in restoration and protection of the environment. So that would be all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yasi, for explaining all the models and approaches and the strategies for BESS. Now, for our last poster presentation, I'd like to invite Stan again to show us the process in Coron. Thank you.
Good evening again. I'll just share the screen. Okay, can you see? Can you see the screen?
Yes, I can see, Stan. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening again, everyone. I'll be presenting again this poster on payment for ecosystem services for integrated watershed management in Tara, Binavista, Malawi, and Coron. Now, as a project summary, the integrated watershed management combines evidence-based protection and rehabilitation of the watershed with climate change adaptation to reduce risks, employing eco-friendly livelihood options and collaboration with stakeholders, with PES as a scheme as a financing scheme of the community to internally support and sustain their watershed protection, rehabilitation, and climate change adaptation actions. So in the middle, you can see there are three boxes, the illustrations. On the left are the ecosystem services users, and on the right is the ecosystem services manager. And in the middle is the ecosystem services. So let's start with the illustration on the ES manager. We consider this as the seller of the ecosystem services, but for the indigenous peoples, these are the managers. For that, TDM is the Watershed Management Committee, who is actually in charge of protecting, rehabilitating, and managing their community watershed areas for the watershed to provide ecosystem services, particularly water, as scarcity of water is really an issue. So to continue sustain the provision of water. Then one of the major ecosystem services that is being felt or being really helped in the community is the provision of fertile soil for the farmers, the organic farmers, so they could continue the natural and organic farming techniques. And also the third is this risk reduction. This is reduced risks from flooding, reduced risk from drought, scarcity of water, reduced risks from storm surges, and reduced risks from degradation of fish habitat. So in the community, the users are we consider the buyers, are the community water service providers. We call it in the Philippines, the BAWASA, the Barangay Association Water, the Barangay Sanitation Associations, and also the farmers, the fishers, because it's a fishing community, the handicraft makers, the Pandan handicraft that I just shared to you previously, and also including visitors, because Coron is a tourism area, and there are observations that some of the tourists are going to their communities already. But this is actually disrupted right now because of the COVID, so there's no visit yet to Coron. So these are the buyers, and they share, particularly these service community water service providers, farmers, fishers, handicraft makers, share 5% of their income. And hopefully, if the finalization of the PES with the barangay local government unit and indigenous people, so they could also collect visitors fee to augment their fund collection for the protection of their watersheds. So in general or in brief, the PES supports the Watershed Management Committee Watershed Management Plan, particularly actions on forest protection, tree planting, mangrove rehabilitation, 3R application, information and capacity building, livelihood, climate change actions, and further climate and water studies. Generally, it actually supports the integrated watershed management approach. Thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you very much, Stan. We have really run way beyond our time period. And I'm pleased to know that we are still having 27 participants in this session. So I'd like to give an opportunity for 3 persons to raise questions if they have, or type it in the chat box. While or to give some comments if you have. If none, we can proceed with oh, there's one message. No, there's no question also on Facebook. So let's just thank the presenters and the audience. And maybe I can just show the last remaining slides to close. Oh, sorry, I haven't shared the screen. Can I share the screen, Shin?
Yes, ma'am, you can share.
Share. Zoom. Share screen. And I think this is it. Yeah. So, and then presentation slide. Yeah. So this closing ceremony of Partners for Resilience is billed as the passing of the baton to the local civil society organizations that we partnered with in the last 5 years and even before, so with the Cagayan de Oro River Basin Management Council, Leban Foundation, and DNR. Of course, we still continue to work with these organizations under the Reach the Coast, Rain to Top project. We want to also pass the baton to the indigenous peoples of Moncayo and Coron, and as well as Moncayo in Agusan, and of course with the governmental agencies. We want to thank them all for this participation and collaboration over the past years. We want to thank also some individuals who have worked with us in the past and are still working with us. So for instance, Arnie Jensen, our associate expert. We also want to thank Judah and the former manager of Leyte branch of Wetlands International, Jane, who is still working there, and Patrick, who was our assistant in the Wetlands Reforestation Project in Moncayo and Talacogon, and Aline Kahinde, who was our liaison officer in the past in Leyte. So thank you very much, and we hope that your work will progress with the knowledge that you have learned with, and the capacity you have gained, the business plans that you have, and the knowledge and payment for ecosystem services to carry on implementing your strategic action plans. Thank you very much. Good evening and good day to others. My apologies for the extension of time. Thank you. And if you have still time, you may answer the poll questions. That we have a few questions for you to respond to. Can you please flash it, Sheehan? How do we answer? How do we answer the
Parang wala kaming maklik, ma'am.
walang maklik?
Ano ba ito, machine?
Sorry. Suppose.
Okay.
Others are already answering it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
I'll wait because you're co-host. Wait.
I see. That's right. Okay.
I'll withdraw the co-host so you can wait, so you can give them and answer the poll.
I stopped sharing.
Oh, that's okay, ma'am. You can still share. Okay, so here you go. I hope you can answer.
You're done, Yashi?
Yeah.
Okay. Were there only 2 questions? I thought there were 5.
There are 5.
Yeah.
There are 5 though.
You have to scroll it down.
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you.
There are 5 questions.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for responding to the survey. I'm glad that it has assisted you in your profession, can contribute to your profession. So with that, I would like now to end the session. Good day and good evening.
Good evening, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Georgia.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Congrats,
you.
Annabelle.
And
Thank you, Dr. Annabelle and
thank-
Risa.
thank you, Arne. And
Hi, Arne. Hi, June. Thank you to Fujitsu employees who joined the webinar.
I'm glad you can make it.
Thank you for Fujitsu.
Thank you, Ma'am Annabelle, for inviting us.
Behind. Thank you, Juvie, for participating despite the weather. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay here.
Yeah. And we will be in touch for your work. Yeah. You're part of the
Thank you. I was asking her that.
Yeah, you're part of the work. So have a nice evening.
Okay.
Thank you, Adele. Thank you, Adele. Thank you.
So much. Congrats,
Thank
Miss.
you.
First time.
Thank you. Aljo, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Baby, come here.
Ipakita, baby, baby.
Come. Yes, come here. Give mommy. Come here. There you go.
Ha, bagong alot ah. Sa man na yung hairdo?
Ay, akong gi-shave, ma'am.
Shave, no?
Hi, tita.
Hi, tita daw.
Ay, very good, titas, not lolas.
Luloy.
He remembers you, Luisa.
Ano pa?
Teddy bear.
Daddy bear? Ah, it's Daddy bear! Sister.
Kaya she.
You want?
No.
You want teddy bear? Ah, okay. Bye-bye na.
Congrats, ha?
Bye.
Congrats also.
Thank you so much, Hailey.
Yeah, sure.
And my boss was
Okay.
there, you know. My boss, Yurian was.
Asa ato?
Yurian, he left after a while, but he was beginning.
Okay.
I saw his
We owe him
Sige.
some reports.
Yes.
Sige, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, ma'am.
Mali pag-end.